perfection doesn't exist. And it can be very uncomfortable and suffocating for the person being pressured or doing like pressuring themselves into doing that, into believing that they have to achieve perfection, whether it's at school or at home or in social situations. They will make sure to do everything in their power to achieve that perfection, especially when you are pressuring them into doing so from a very early childhood. Being perfect is not a good thing to achieve because, like I said, no one is perfect. If you believed yourself to be perfect or that you have to achieve perfection no matter what, then you are going to suffer and become very insecure about yourself. What happens when those expectations, even if they are positive, even if your family says that you are perfect, what happens for the people who are being pressured to be perfect? What happens when you begin to suffocate under the pressure? Hello, everyone. My name is Alex, and I love anime and manga. Welcome to the Psychanime YouTube channel. And in today's video, I want to talk about Yuki Sohma from Fruits Basket, another one of the main protagonists of the series. Similarly to Kyo, Yuki from a very early childhood was pressured into having expectations placed on him. But different from Kyo, who was expected to be a monster and basically a stereotypical cat of the zodiac, who have to be locked up because they are seen as a curse. Yuki was put on a pedestal of being a perfect child, the golden rat, basically, the the rat of the zodiac who arrived first into the banquet and sat beside God. Yuki is the perfect definition of a perfect child, someone who was expected from an early childhood to achieve great things, to be besides God in everything, to have high scores, to have a perfect life, basically, a life that was expected for a red child. And even in school, this mask of perfection, of a cold, distant, but very kind person, made him the target of idealization, by all of the girls at school wanting to be close to Yuki, but also not letting themselves or anyone to be close to him. And because of that mask, no one approached him, and he lived a very secluded life. And he had no friends, and his family is very complicated and toxic, except for Ayame. Ayame is a ray of sunshine and chaos incarnate. And outside of school, there's his home life. Even though he lives with Shigure, his home life before moving to Shigure's for high school was basically hell because everyone revered him as a rat and put expectations, and his mother basically pressured him into that perfection, that he had to make perfect scores. He had to always be with Akito, even though Yuki hated Akito so much. And those expectations suffocated Yuki so much because he didn't know what to do with himself. He doesn't have any likes because everything was predetermined. He doesn't have friends, so he never was allowed to play. And even if he was with Akito, Akito basically indoctrinated him and was basically a psychological torture being with Akito. And this caused a lot of problems with his self esteem. Going back to Erickson's psychological stages, his early childhood, basically from 1 to 3 years old, was filled with shame and doubt of his likes and dislikes. His will to being dependent on many tasks was crushed. And then came his play age, which is 3 to 6 years old, which was filled with guilt of being himself. He wasn't allowed to have likes outside of Akito and the Soma clan. And you can see this in the beginning of the series. He doesn't know how to cook or clean, and even the small portion of land that he has to grow vegetables and fruit, he's filled with guilt over having that thing, like that little thing that allowed him to be himself, because he knows that at one point he has to go back. It can be very suffocating and painful to realize this, that no matter what you do, the expectation is that none of that will matter. The friends you have, the things, the hobbies that you started to like, none of that will matter because everything will just go back into family or this person that was extremely toxic to you, but you have no choice but to stay by their side. And it's especially clear with his relationship with Kyo and Haru. Kyo is the cat. They basically have a rivalry going on. They both hated each other a bit, but it was a hated fueled by jealousy because Kyo had something that Yuki craved, which is a freedom and people that love him for who he is. And Yuki had stuff that Kyo craved, which is a the elegance and the attention and admiration of the people around him. So they both clashed a lot. Even Toru even says that even though they are different, both of them are kind of similar in that sense, that both of them crave something deeply, can't really acknowledge that. They're both afraid, and that fear and jealousy ended up blowing up in kind of aggression, but only for each other. Then there's Haru, who is also a childhood friend. But as we know in the story of the Zodiac, the rat rode into the ox. But as we know in the story of the Zodiac, the rat rode on the ox's back, tricking him into saying that they were tired and they will help him get to the banquet, only to then hop off the ox's back and made it first, basically tricking and using the ox. And it caused also a lot of pain for Haru, which in turn made him kind of resentful for the rat, for Yuki. Only that the relationship kind of mended, and Haru kind of had a bit of a crush on Yuki before falling in love with Rin. Yuki appreciates Haru's straightforwardness and really loving, but this kind of perfection, these kind of expectations kind of fall when you meet the right people, when you yourself start to open up and melt the ice that encased your heart. If you find the people that actually doesn't care about the real you, you can start to experiment and try to find the stuff that brings you joy. And this is what happens to Yuki. Yuki finds solace in people that actually care about him. Let's start with Toru, of course, our protagonist. She represents the love and connection that Yuki desperately craved since he was younger, because his mother was a B word. She was a neglectful, very verbally abusive person. And this caused Yuki to want to run away to Shigure's when he had the chance, also because of Akito. When he meets Toru, he thinks of her like just another girl who he has to hide his secret of being the rat of the zodiac. But when she finds out the truth, accidentally hugging him, she accepts him. She doesn't hide her excitement of meeting the people of the zodiac. And it kind of baffled Yuki because everyone that has been exposed to his secret was basically disgusted or ran away from him and then had their memories erased, except for, of course, their mother. But their mother is an exception in that she expresses it by being really bad mother. This kind of acceptance and later on all of these moments of Toru being just the best, kindest person there is in this world kind of starts making the ice around his heart to melt. He started to smile more. He started to become more confident in himself. And even though he once thought that that kind of affection was romantic, it turns out he wasn't falling in love with Toru. He was actually looking at her like you would to a motherly figure or someone who gave you motherly affection, someone who was warm and had a lot of unconditional love for the world and the people around you. And that kind of love that he craved was with Toru. He wasn't falling in love with her, and that revelation was a sigh of relief because at first he was trying to delude himself into thinking that what he was feeling was romantic in nature, basically forcing himself to flirt or having that kind of uh, like reactions or emotions that a person in love would do, a man in love. But that made him very uncomfortable because that's not what he was feeling. And he felt kind of weird doing that to Toru. It wasn't until he met Machi that he realizes that what he was feeling for Toru was completely different. And he expresses to Mando his basically his first ever real friend outside of the zodiacs. Machi represents an equal to Yuki. She is someone who was kind of similar to him, that all of the expectations of her to be perfect kind of made her basically have a psychotic break at one point, and she was basically abused and neglected to be the way that she is. But she's afraid of that perfection. Everything that is uniform has to be broken. She's afraid of everything that is uniform and perfect because of the abuse and the all of the things that her family had done to her. And Yuki understands that and loves that there's someone out there like him. This is why they both complement each other a lot. And then there's uh, Ayame, his older brother, the goat, the embodiment of sexuality and being yourself. Because Ayame is a disaster bisexual who is not afraid to be himself. He loves the things that he loves. He is not afraid to flaunt those things. He loves clothing, he loves his sexuality, and he loves his girlfriend. And he loves his little brother so much. Even if at first it was a way to make himself feel better for neglecting Yuki when he was young and leaving him with his parents and Akito. Ayame is a very good brother who loves his little brother so much that he will basically interrupt a child parent meeting because their mother was being overbearing. So he interrupted them by being himself and standing up for that mother who he was so afraid of when he was younger. And I give a lot of props for Ayame for doing that, because for him to be there for his brother, he needed him to basically stand up for him and be there for him when he needs the most, and actually gives very good advice about doing the things that he loves. So it's all thanks to that Yuki finally is able to start opening up to the people around him, to his friends in the school council, to the people on the Sohma clan, basically starting to ignore all of those voices and standing up to Akito and starting to become the selfish rat that he is, that he's actually mischievous. He likes to play around. He loves gardening. He wants to influence and help people to also be attentive to the people around him. So I'm going to ask you this before we wrap up this video. Are you willing to open up to the people around you, to be yourself to the people that you love, even if it makes you uncomfortable, even if you are so afraid of what other people might say? Are you willing to do that, even if it breaks all of expectations, even if people will cry that that's not you, you are supposed to be perfect? Tell me, are you sure that that is yourself and not a mask of expectations? Are you willing to break out of those shackles? Are you willing to make footprints in the white, pure snow? Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. If you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more of this content. And if you want more recommendations, also don't forget to comment down below what anime or character you want me to do next. Drink water, and don't forget to be your fantastic selves. Take care. Bye bye.